don't think you're sleeping. Can you come back in an hour? Need sleepy. Please go away. Let me sleep for the love of God!
It's now time for the Billy C. Morning Show, part of the Billy C. Boxing Network. Interact with the show at BillyCBoxing.com.
Good morning to everyone. We're coming to you live from the Billy C. Studios in Lake George, New York. I'm Bill Calogero, and it's time for the Billy C. Morning Show. Hope everybody's doing all right today. I'm doing okay. Today's show is being brought to us in part by Sal's Neighborhood Pizzeria, an Italian restaurant located in St. Simons Island, Georgia. If you've never been there, you lose. Check out the menu, www.salsneighborhoodpizzeria.com, or give my man a call, 912-268-2328. 912-268-2328 is the number to call. Remember, mention Billy C, and he'll throw you a cannoli with your order. Yeah. Just tell him to put it in a box. Getting one thrown at you is not really, you know what I'm talking about. Today's show is also being brought to us in part by JKJ Boxing Magazine. Subscribe today. It's for free. You don't have to take out a second or third mortgage to get this magazine. And I was just informed by the editor of JKJ Boxing Magazine that the new issue is going to print as we speak. So make sure you sign up and get it. There will be an article by yours truly in it, as well as our Blast from the Past guy, Alex Papali. So make sure you get a copy. You can get all the information by visiting our website, www.BillyCBoxing.com, and click on the JKJ Boxing magazine cover. Today's show is also being brought to us in part by my book. Tom Molyneux, From Bondage to Baddest Man on the Planet, is available right now where all good books are sold. And you could literally get a copy of it right now, whether you're watching or listening live, whether you're watching a replay, whether you're watching it whenever the hell you want. When you're listening to the podcast on KHZ, you can get it. Just visit BarnesandNoble.com or Amazon.com. Or if you're a cheap bastard, come on up to the Boxing Hall of Fame this weekend, or next weekend, I should say. And I'll be selling it at a discount price. I'm going to be sharing a table with my man James Curl at the card show. So check that out. Today's big topic is some more discussion on pro boxing in the Olympics. And I'm officially announcing that I like it. And I'll tell you why in a second. And another random thought just popped into my mind. You know how like the stare down in boxing, a lot of fighters take that pride in the stare down, And I was thinking, a mean ass dog in a stare down. I mean, that's impressive. But you know what would be the best? If a fighter could emulate a cat. Just hear me out for a minute. I'm not a big cat lover. But you ever look at some of the faces that a cat makes? Like, who the F are you? A cat's face could be perfect if you could emulate that in a stare down. I don't know. Hey, you know what? Let me get the thoughts of an expert. Joining me right now is a guy that's been known to give some vicious stares of his own. Sal Rocky. Let me read that. Take two, Billy C. Let me introduce the guy that's been known to do a stare down or two. Sal Rocky Senecola. What's up, brother?
Bill, yeah.
What's up, man?
I'm thinking back and I'm looking at some of my fights, and boy, my stare down was just that, piercing and penetrating and evil eyes. And,
you?
Never looked away, never flinched. And I don't know about the cat look. We'll see.
I mean, do you ever see like a cat? It's like that commercial. I think it's for insurance or something. You do what you do, and the guy's like getting chased by some killers or something, and he's in quicksand. He's like, "Go get help, boy. Go to help." Like you're thinking he's talking to Lassie. You know how Lassie. What? Jimmy's in the well? Oh, okay. Go get a rope and help him. Oh, okay, Lassie. And he's looking over at the cat, and the cat's just sitting there ignoring him. Cats ignore people. It's what they do. It would be perfect for a stare down. I don't know.
Hey, you know what? Why not? Hey, I'll tell you. You touched on a subject that there are several top pros also throwing their hat into the ring on, and that's the professional fighters. being qualified or allowed to be Olympians in this up and coming Olympics with the Rio de Janeiro and all that. And there's some argument for both sides again, and I think this is going to be an issue. And it's not that I'm changing my stance, but as I said, I at first, when I first heard it, I was against it. Then I was a little softening, saying, "Hey, maybe it could be okay." But I'm swinging back to my original decision that I don't know if it's going to be good for boxing for a lot of reasons. But we could talk about that when you like to open that can of worms up again. Thank you very much.
Let's open that can up right now because I want to talk about it. And here's the thing.
There you go again.
The bottom line is this. I mean, we got an official statement from the BBBC saying they don't like it. We got an official an official statement by Napoleon himself, Mike Mazzulli, who's now the president of the ABC, the Association of Boxing Commissions, which really, I still wonder what they actually do because, everyone supposedly follows them, but they don't really have, it's like a voluntary thing. But anyway, and he's against it. And he makes some statements about the safety of a amateur fighting a pro and all this stuff. And maybe there has to be an asterisk next to it. But overall, I like it. And let me tell you why. The way pro boxing has become, and again, I'm not trying to knock it. And believe me, it's hard not to knock pro boxing these days. But I'm not knocking it in a sense. In a sense, I am, and in a sense, I'm not. In a sense, I am, in a sense, I don't. I'm sort of
you're going to be a good politician.
I was just going to say, maybe I should consider being a politician. Because I'm thinking that maybe it is good, or maybe it's not so good. I might vote yes, I might vote no. I don't know. It depends what you want me to do. But the truth of the matter is, the reason why I like it is because I feel that it could be an opportunity for some fighters that are maybe had to turn pro out of necessity. Maybe they didn't sign on with a team that was protecting them. We talk, Sal, over and over and over about fighters being overprotected and them not fighting, tough opposition. And the long and the short of the story is that they don't get better by fighting these layup fights. And if there's a young fighter out there that's not getting the opportunity because he doesn't have the right team behind him, well, especially if he's got 10, 12 fights under his belt, maybe going into the Olympics and winning a gold medal or even a silver might boost his value a little bit as a pro. So for a guy like that, I think it's helpful. For a guy that's an older pro that's trying to get back into the scene, it could be a last-ditch effort to get some notoriety for him or accomplish a medal round or something like that. The guys that it would not be good for are the Amir Khans, like you mentioned earlier. He's saying he would like to go and compete and all of this stuff. I mean, he might
represent Pakistan.
Well, but the thing is that he might be overqualified for that. But the bottom line is all these people, and our very own coach in the chat room right now, I know he's against it, but you can't look at it from the United States point of view. And the United States point of view is, you got these kids. The kids are in the Olympics. Oh, it's not fair to the kids. The kids. Well, that's how we do it here. But we're competing. Those same kids are competing against countries that aren't sending kids. They're sending the best fighters they have in their little country, And I don't think that the playing field is that even. All you got to do is look at how many gold medals the United States has won over the last 20, 30 years. The last big Olympics was, what? Sugar Ray Leonard was Oscar De La Hoya. I mean, when did we have some superstars from this country? Very far and few between. I don't know. I don't think it's a bad thing. I think maybe they should cap it out. I don't know, man. I don't know.
I mean, it's definitely going to be open for some debate as well, even though they made the decision to allow it right now. I mean, I got to tell you, Bill, the United States has a damn proven good top amateur athletic union and breeding ground for some real top contenders for gold medals. I mean, as I remember, in my era, I mean, I was a fighter for the USA boxing team, and to qualify and do that, you had to go through a lot of fights, and you had to have a lot of experience. I mean, I won Golden Gloves. You had to maybe win a national title. I won a little national AAU championship out in San Diego. I had a lot of experience. And after I won my third, I think it was the AAU state championships, I went to an AAU national title in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. Believe it or not, it's the first time I tasted grits. And I'll tell you what, I did very well in the opening rounds. But I think it was the quarterfinal or the semifinal, quarterfinal round, I got disqualified. I didn't know why, because I was bobbing and weaving and using the referee said I was using a professional style of all things. There I am, an amateur. And because I was bobbing and weaving, and my face or my chin was ahead in front of my hands. And that's not allowed in the amateur game. Your hands have to be in front of your face and they have to move with your head. So I didn't know that rule at the time. I was just ducking a punch and leading with my head. Maybe that's that was where I first started. Well, I won't go into that. But anyway, so there are going to be some rule issues and there are going to be some style issues. But I read earlier that even Klitschko wants to go represent Russia, and Kathy Duva doesn't want anything to do with that. I mean, he can't do it; it's not allowed. And here you have Amir Khan; he wants to do it. So, for whatever reason, I could see the argument on both sides. But is it the right thing to do and approve? I don't know. Like I said, it's going to be a debated issue.
Listen, first of all, I want to give a shout out to my man Joel. He's in the chat room a lot. Happy birthday, Joel! He finally
Happy
hit.
Birthday, Joel!
I think he said he hit 30 or 32 or something. He's just
he's
a baby.
Kid.
He's a baby.
Yeah. Hey, Joel. We what we usually do. Last night we sang birthdays in my restaurant. I usually open it up with a little Italian happy birthday. Buon compleanno a te. It's happy birthday to you. So happy birthday, Joel. Many, many healthy and happy more.
32 years old, 30 years old. I got T-shirts older than that, Sal. Anyway, but I tell you, I could see if somebody uses the case of Amir Khan or Klitschko, as a negative for pros being allowed in boxing. I could see that. They're an established. I mean, I think there has to be an asterisk next to pros being allowed to compete. I think that
I don't know, Bill, because then again, once you break that seal, you open up all kinds of issues. And like you said, why should Amir Khan be not allowed to go fight when maybe a 4-rounder who just turned pro but wants to throw his hat in the ring as an amateur again or as a Olympian has the right to do that? You can open up a whole bunch of right issues and everything else.
Well, Dax and I were talking about this on the phone yesterday. And by the way, we are not going to take a commercial break today because I don't know. We might even open up the phone lines later. I don't know. I'm in one of those moods today.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's wing it off the cuff. Let's get off the stool. Let's fight.
The thing is this. I don't know if you can say like a Klitschko is the same as a kid that's got 10 fights, 8 fights under his, maybe he's a 4 or 6 round fighter that wants to get another opportunity to increase his value, because that's what I see. I see that fighters fighting in the Olympics are fighting for a couple of reasons. Number one, if they've never fought professionally, they're fighting for the amateur, ultimate goal as an amateur is to win a gold medal in the Olympics, right? I mean, so they're fulfilling their dream. But as a pro, you might be getting back in it to create some value for yourself. Maybe gain some experience that you didn't get.
I see that, and that's a good argument too. But I'm telling you, when you're turning professional, if you're not able to learn as you go along, get the experience, you shouldn't have turned professional.
Yeah, but wait a minute. Look at who they're fighting. Listen, I can't. Listen. When you look at some of these amateur fighters today, and this wasn't the case in rare instances back in years ago, you would see an Olympian come out of the Olympics and turn pro and immediately make headway as a professional fighter.
Absolutely.
Occasionally you did, all right, but for a long time the normal road was to come out of the Olympics, you turned pro, and then you started on the bottom, just like every other person that turned pro, whether they were in the Olympics or not. But what's happened in the last decade, even less, is that you're getting these superstar amateur fighters, Lomachenko, Guillermo Rigondeaux, all these kids that are coming out, and they're not even kids. They've been performing. All the Cuban fighters for years that have been considered one of the best on the planet that never got to fight pro. All these fighters that are fighting international tournaments year after year, month after month, that are facing opposition 10 times better than who they're fed as a 4-round fighter in North Carolina or some shithole that they're fighting in. Come on. And that's why these guys are becoming champions after 6 fights and 10 fights and stuff like that. So, how can you put, coaches trying to make an argument, the kids, they work so hard. Yeah, well, that's here in this country. It's our system that has to be changed. Listen, to me, it's evening the playing field. When you and I talked about this years and years ago, 1,000 years ago, when they started the Olympics, the competition, it was meant to put the best athletes from each country to compete against each other. At some point it became amateurs when countries, started having opportunities for pros and everything else. It became amateur. And we talked a couple weeks ago, last week, whenever it was, that even Jim Thorpe, a great athlete, was stripped of his gold medal because he played football or some crap like that for 9 cents or some shit. And you got to roll with the changes, man. A poverty-stricken kid 50, 60 years ago didn't have clothes. They didn't know if they were going to eat. Poverty-stricken kids today, have a cheap cell phone. They have $200 sneakers. It's a different world today. You got to roll with the changes. Everybody's got to stop this bullshit with politically correct and don't offend anybody.
I know.
Don't offend him. Hey, he's a pro. Don't offend him by saying he can't fight in the Olympics, or he's an amateur. Don't offend him. He's going to fight a pro. Come on, Sal.
It opens up, like I said, a can of worms. Here you got a pro. I'll give you an example. When I was managed by Richie Giacchetti early on in my career, I was 7-0, 4 or 5 knockouts. And the Olympians from '84, Lou Duva snagged a lot of them up there. And Lou Duva approached Richie Giacchetti and said, "Hey, Lou, I've got Meldrick Taylor making his pro debut. I'd like him to fight Sal Senecola." And Richie said, he kind of made it. He said, "Sal, here's the situation. I'm going to tell you right now. You fight Meldrick Taylor in his pro debut. He's an Olympic gold medalist, and you beat him. So you beat an amateur in his first pro fight. Okay. You lose to Meldrick Taylor in his first pro fight. Then all of a sudden your credibility goes down." And I wanted the fight. And Richie said, "You know what? I've got other ideas for you right now, too." And by that time, I was already fighting maybe 6 and 8 rounds, too. So, again, now you're going to have, let's say, Klitschko, for example. He wants a fight. Now, he's going to beat an amateur, or he's going to get beat by an amateur. Again, these rules are different. A right hand across right to the jaw or left hook counts as much as a jab. And you could have somebody outbox you and just tattoo you all night long, and that's going to open up that. Hey, well, I beat the world champion, heavyweight champion. I want to fight him for real. I'm going to turn pro. Then they turn this guy pro. He hasn't fought more than 3 rounds. He's fighting 4 rounds, 6 rounds, and he wants Klitschko. Klitschko, if he's still champ, they fight, and it's just a lot of things that could unveil, just be revealed and opened up. And I don't know. Boxing has credibility issues as it is. I like our amateur program with the state championships, the national championships, the United States boxing team, and I think it's a good proving ground. But I'm still a little bit on the fence. I don't know if I want to see pros go to the Olympics.
Listen, you make a good point. There's more risk for the pro fighting an amateur.
Well, there is,
and especially So I agree with you there. But when you got, first of all, you can't you know what the problem with us in the United States are? People in the United States think who the hell they are. They think their shit don't stink. When I was over in France for a fight recently, last year, whatever it was, we were there, and the fighter, I'm not going to mention his name, who I was there with, goes into the restaurant. We're in a restaurant, and we're trying to tell him what we want, but nobody spoke English, So he's all mad, and he's like, "What, doesn't anybody speak English?" And I turn to him, I go, "Dude, we're in France." That's why everybody doesn't like Americans, because Americans go to some other country and they expect everybody to do what we do. Come on. It's the same thing. You got our amateur program in the United States sucks. Okay, it sucks. Why? Because you got, just like you said, let's do international, let's do national championships. So here's what you got. You got kids that are fighting in the New York Golden Gloves, let's say. And the amateur program in New York is good because we have a lot of young kids that are fighting. Chicago, a lot of young kids. But who are they competing against when you go for a national tournament? You got a kid fighting out of New York who's got, tougher gym battles, and he fights a kid from North Carolina where there's two kids in the weight class. I went and did the broadcast down in Florida, and they had guys winning the state title, moving on to the Olympics, and they didn't have to fight anybody because there was nobody in their weight class. So come on. It's not just how we do it. The BBC, the BBBSC, they say their big thing is it's against the spirit of the Olympics. And I disagree. The spirit of the Olympics were to put the best athletes from every country. So how is that against the spirit? The ABC, Mike Mazzulli says that they're committed to safety, and they feel that the amateur fighters competing with pro fighters is not safe. And I say, how can you say that if you have a guy that has no amateur background or virtually none? Because remember, each state is different. You could become a pro fighter in some states would never have laced on a glove in your life. There is no rules that say that you got to fight X amount of amateur fights. In New York, they'll never let you turn pro without an amateur background. In Florida, you need at least five fights. Sal, what does 5 fights as an amateur prove? That you're ready to be a professional? Come on, man. It's skewed. It's skewed, Sal.
No, I know. It is bad. Hey, and I'm reading in the chat room too, and Coach was coming up with a good statement. You have to make those choices, and I remember back in '80 when they were boycotted my year for going to the Olympics, and I had to make a decision because I was already in my early 20s. Did I want to stay around? Would I be an old man turning pro at 24, 25? Back in the '80s, you were. Because you were out of the boxing game by the time you were 28, 30. If you were hanging around in boxing at 32, 34, you were considered a has-been or an opponent or just fodder for the young pros coming up. And not across the board. There were some older fighters, but you know what I'm saying. So, the thing was to have a great amateur career, turn pro, and use those ages in the 20s to eat it up and do the best you can and get out.
Let me throw this at you, Sal, because this is right up your alley.
It's a punch. I'd like to slip it.
Yeah, well, you would like. That's the problem. You'd like to slip them off, but some get true. Some get true. But listen. Okay, let's turn the tables on you, Sal Rocky Senecola. Here's a guy. You fought in the amateurs. You missed your shot at the Olympics. You turned pro. You had a successful career. You had a bump in the road. Turned you off. It burned you up for 25 years, 66 days and 4 hours. I don't know the exact time. And then what did you do? You had to get that monkey off your back. You had to go step in that ring at 50 plus, right? You had to do it. You had to do it. Everybody told you no. You did it. You didn't listen. You still would be fighting if you had the chance now. What about? Let me turn the tables. What if you had an opportunity to fight in the Olympics, something that's been burning at you your whole life that you didn't get the chance, or maybe you made the wrong decision. Maybe you turned pro. You didn't want to wait that extra 2 years to get to the Olympics. A lot of young kids have that decision to make. They're ready to turn pro, but they got to wait 2 or 3 years before the next Olympics. So they say, you know what? I don't want to wait 3 years. I want to start making some money. And they turn pro, and then they realize, ooh, maybe I made the wrong decision. And then don't they get the same opportunity to get a do-over like you did? You know, I mean, the truth of the matter is you could look at this 100 different ways. I think the best solution, in my opinion, is to cap out the pro. In other words, a Klitschko or an Amir Khan, which are two examples of extremely established fighters, maybe they're not allowed. Or if they had competed in the Olympics once before, they're not allowed. You know, but for fighters that are young, fighters that have, 10, 12 fights or less, a fighter that has never competed in the Olympics, and they're a pro now, I think they should be allowed. That's my opinion.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm sure you're going to have a lot of attorneys listening to this program saying, boy, open that up, because they just got hired to do discrimination lawsuits for the older fighters, established fighters who cannot compete at the Olympics on that level, had that been a rule established. It's like I said, it's going to open up a can of worms. It has opened up a can of worms. It's a debatable issue, and it surely has an argument for both sides. Billy, you and I could do a point-counterpoint, and we're gonna spew what we feel and the pros and cons of each. And that's just it. That's why it's a debated issue. It's definitely something that deserves to be looked at and to be, I guess, decided upon using both of the arguments that we could look at.
Well, here's the thing. The AIBA that approved this. 88, what was it, 84 of 88 votes or something? 88 people that were allowed to vote, 84 of them voted yes. I mean, so it was overwhelming. And the thing is, a coach here is saying, oh, they have to qualify. Oh, yeah, they do have to qualify. I don't know where he's getting his information, but that was the stipulation, that the fighters that were pro that want to compete in this year's Olympics, which they only have 10 weeks to prepare, they would have to go through the normal qualifying procedure. So how many are actually going to even get in?
Another thing. Are you going to have pros now saying, hey, why should it, again, we're going to open up the whole discrimination package. I mean, why can't a pro then compete in a local Golden Glove championship? Hey, I always wanted to win more Golden Gloves. Let me go back in the ring.
Well, wait a minute. Wait a minute. USA Boxing does have an age limit. So I mean, you would have to fall under that as the age limit. But I'm talking about
disqualify me, because I was just thinking about training for the Olympics.
You're too old. Stop. But the thing is that they do have to qualify. They do have to make the Olympic team, even if you're a pro. They said that. Now, the probability of a huge amount of fighters that are going to make this jump from the amateurs, or I should say from the pros to the Olympics this year for Rio, may be small. But I'll tell you what. Start looking for the next Olympics in 2020 in Tokyo. That's when you're going to see it. You're going to see it because they'll have more time to prepare. They can put their pro careers on hold and focus on Olympic. Listen, everybody's jumping the gun a little bit, and I think that it's actually good for the sport. And I'll tell you why. I think that not only does it give some young pros a second chance, but it also gives them an opportunity to create value. And, oh, by the way, isn't it also creating some interest in the sport? At the end of the day, we need more interest in the sport of boxing, whether it be pro or amateur. We got to start somewhere. Let me tell you something. Yesterday I wrote an article. I didn't publish it yet, but I wrote it. I'm going to probably be putting it up. And the bottom line is this, and I was telling Dax about this yesterday. The problem that we have in the sport of boxing is simple, all right? What's happened is there's the diehard boxing fan. You and me and Larry Hazard and all the fans that have been around for a long time, we're always saying, oh, boxing ain't what it used to be. Oh, let's get boxing back. You and I talk about that off air for hours. And the truth of the matter is, it's never going to get back. And the reason is because the main reasons why it's where it's at, you would expect these sanctioning bodies and the corrupt and greed of promoters and managers, etc., to all of a sudden walk away. And they're not gonna. They're not going to take their claws out of the cash cow. What's happened is the promoters and the television networks are capitalizing on the short-term boxing fan. They're capitalizing on that. If a fan if Joe Schmo becomes a boxing fan today, Sal, if they become a fan today, because maybe they watched Anthony Joshua fight, maybe they watched the Triple G fight, and they're like, oh, I like this stuff. I'm a boxing fan. And they started watching it. What do you think the odds of that fan that started today is going to become a diehard boxing fan? I think that the young fans today, the early fans of today, are short-term fans. And I think that the networks and the promotional companies know that, and they're capitalizing on that. Why else do you think they could try to make a pay-per-view like the Terrence Crawford, Victor Postal pay-per-view, and Bob Arum claiming that it's a worthwhile pay-per-view, and hardly anybody knows these guys. And the only people that are going to pay for it are either the diehard fans, which is a dying breed in itself, or new fans. And then they're going to move on to something else. Think of it this way, Sal. NFL fans, Major League Baseball fans, NBA fans, these are lifelong fans. You're a Jets or Giants fan in New York. You raise your kids as Jets or Giants fans. They raise their kids as Jets or Giants. You're creating a NFL fan for life. NFL gets to target lifelong, generational fan bases, whereas boxing does not. The generational fan base is rarity to have everyone in the family, from grandfather to father to son to great-grandfather, et cetera, all be boxing fans. It's very rare today. So, you want to put the blame on the promoters taking advantage of today's new fan. And they're going to leave the sport. They're not sticking around. It's all short-term. It's like hitting a lotto. That's what it is, man.
It sounds like a lot of parlor talk,
Well,
you make a good case. And like I said, you and I talk off air about what do we need to cultivate a good fan base and reestablish boxing as one of the top sports. And we have some great ideas that we share with each other. But this is another facet to that and another way of looking at it. And I could see the value behind your ideas.
Well, it's like coaches making a statement in there saying, the AIBA just wants their claws into the pros. I think it's the other way around. When you hear the WBC and the ABC and the BBBSC all saying how bad it is, it's because they don't want to share their cash cows with somebody else. Listen, you got to look at the whole sport. And, just like any other sport, you start off with the amateurs or the non-pros. You go into the minor leagues if there's a minor league system, et cetera, et cetera. Why is boxing different? Just because I turned pro doesn't mean I'm better than some of the amateurs out there. It does not mean that.
It should. It should. But
it should. I'm not saying it shouldn't, no. Sal, but it doesn't. So you can't, and that's what everybody's trying to do. They're blanketing the definition of a professional. A professional athlete is supposed to be the best of the best, and they're saying, whoa, that's going to be not fair against an amateur. And that's so untrue. When you have some of these amateurs that will kick the living shit out of half the pro. These pros don't even face the competition level of these fighters that are fighting international tournaments.
Well, that's what I'm saying. You know what? As I remember, to earn your way for an Olympic berth, you had to have one hell of a resume as far as experience and fights under your belt. And that's why it was such a coveted prize. Not only was it a coveted goal to get a gold medal in the Olympics, but even to be a member of the United States boxing team. I remember the first time I was extended the invitation to go fight against a country in Europe and given a USA boxing jersey. I mean, it was phenomenal. It was like, wow, I did it. I did something like that. It was great.
Yeah, well, I think that I think in the long term it's going to be good. Let's read an email before I have a heart attack here. Jesse.
Easy.
Jesse says, hey, Billy C., I don't like Terry Flanagan versus Fana. This is a joke. Terry must fight somebody at a higher level. He's talking about Mazonki Fana, who's got a record of 38-9, 16 knockouts, former world champion, but he's 42 years old. You know, in today's boxing, I mean, you know, we always complain about mismatches and stuff, but the truth of the matter is you know, occasionally you can't. Like, I complain about Deontay Wilder because he seems to never have fought anybody. Terry Flanagan has had a pretty tough road. He deserves a layup fight every now and then. I don't have a problem with that. I have a problem with them approving a fight like this. But, you know, Fan is, as far as I know, he's still active. He may seem like he's over the hill, but I don't hate this fight as much as Jesse does. He says, Billy, I still think Mosley fight was fixed. When I was watching a fight at the bar, another guy agreed with me that the fight was fixed. I watched Duran and Mosley in a sparring session, and Shane was not following Duran's instructions. Duran would say move and jab, and he did that in the fight for the first 3 rounds, but later reverted back to himself and stayed planted. Listen, there's no way that the Mosley fight was fixed. He wanted to move forward to you know, increase the awareness of his promotional company and his pocketbook. He didn't want to lose this fight. He still thinks he won the fight. He's going on out there in the media saying that he thought he got robbed on the scorecards. As far as him reverting back to his you know, planted stuff. Listen, Sal, you know this as well as I. You know, somebody could teach you something new. You could be with a new trainer and you know, learn something new as you're preparing for a fight. But in the heat of battle, you always go to what's automatic. And that's what I always say about fighters. You know, when they think too much, it's bad. You know, when you're trying to think, oh, wait a minute, my trainer told me I need to snap my jab out. Oh, I got to keep my right hand up. Oh, I got to do this. I got to do that. You know, I mean, when you're thinking too much is when you make mistakes. You got to do it automatically, right?
Billy, you know what? That is a very true statement that you just said. And, you know, I've been with some of the world's top trainers in my career. And from Richie Giacchetti to Ilu Duva to Johnny Torres to Don Turner, one of my favorite trainers of all time, Don Turner. And, yeah, you know, when you're with a new trainer, a Turner, I'm teasing, they will look at your style and they may try to emphasize or may try to introduce you to something that would work and you could hone in on. And you practice it until it becomes innate. It becomes your style. But if you're not thoroughly through that process, you know, you're in the middle of a heat of the battle, sometimes you will revert back to where you feel your comfort zone is. And that is when that certain move or certain thing has not become your nature because you haven't practiced it or owned it long enough.
Exactly.
But if you do and you use it and it becomes innate, then it works. You know, it's different. Different fighters have different time periods of how they're going to learn and what they're going to revert to or how they're going to use what they're taught for future style. And that's what I'm saying. A lot of fighters, they have their style. Their boilerplate style is ingrained. And it's up to the trainer to work with that style and enhance it to make it maximize where it could be. And if the guy's totally off his game, yeah, a good trainer could look at it objectively and say, hey, I see how you're doing this, but you need to approach it like this. And, you know, I don't see those types of trainers in the game anymore.
No, we don't have teachers. We don't have good teachers as trainers. We have rah-rah men. We have nutritionists. We have all this.
Well, exactly. We have trainers. We have one guy who thinks he's a conditioning coach. You have another guy who thinks he's a nutrition coach. And sure, but like I said, the old school where I had the opportunity to work with a Don Turner, a Richie Giacchetti, a Lou Duva, and all these other guys that shared some of their knowledge with me for my style, I grasped on it, and I loved it. And I bit the bullet, and I made it my own. It became innate. So you drill something, you practice something, it's there for you to own and to have and to recall when you're in the heat of battle.
No doubt. And they always go back to the comfort zone. Let me finish Jesse's email, and I got another one to read. And by the way, if you take the time to drop me an email with your questions, comments, or concerns, I'll take the time to read it on air. Billy at Talkin' Boxing, TalkinBoxing.com. Final thought from Jesse. He says, Billy, I would like Triple G to move up and fight Zurdo Ramirez, Gilberto Ramirez. Since Zurdo wants to fight him, Zurdo had mentioned that Canelo is a chicken. Canelo is showing that he's a chicken, or he's just letting dollars ruin his judgment. And when a fighter says he'll fight somebody right now, and effing this and effing that, and they pound their chest, they lose credibility when they don't. I lost all respect for David Haye. He's one of the worst fighters in my mind. I can't stand him because he says he's going to do this, he's going to do that, and then he chicken shit at it. And Canelo Alvarez, although he was one of my favorite fighters, all the antics, especially him vacating the belt to avoid Triple G, same thing. Adonis Stevenson, in my opinion, lost all credibility when he won't fight Kovalev, and he still is avoiding Kovalev. So, I agree with Ramirez, and I think that Gilberto should watch out what he wishes for. I don't think that Triple G would have any trouble with Gilberto. As a matter of fact, Gilberto Ramirez has followed a very similar path to Canelo Alvarez. He had a very weak opposition building him up. He fought his last fight was his toughest fight to date. He's on the undercard of the Victor Postal Terrence Crawford fight, fighting presumably a win there. So we'll see what happens. Joel says, with Gabe Rosado on an off-TV bout this Saturday on the undercard of Vargas Salido against a fighter named Antonio Gutierrez, do you feel with a victory for Gabe that it would position him for a big fight in the future? He says, I think a good crossroads fight would be against Brian Vera, who's fighting Matt Korobov in a few weeks. He's saying that the winner stays relevant, the loser needs to consider retiring. My thoughts on Gabe Rosado is I applaud Gabe Rosado. Gabe Rosado is one of the few fighters in the sport today that are willing to fight whoever they put in front of him, literally whoever. He's been in some tough fights, and to date, I think he's fought Triple G the best, to tell you the truth. He got stopped, but that's his skin fails him. He gets cut and swollen really easily, but I like Gabe Rosado. I wish more fighters were like him, and I don't think he's near retiring at all, so I like him. I like the fact that he'll fight whoever they put in front of him. He doesn't care about weights. You never hear any complaints from Gabe Rosado. I wish more fighters were like Gabe Rosado. Thanks for the emails. I tell you one thing. Let me just jump off the Olympic topic for a second. Bob Arum is claiming that there's no way that Manny Pacquiao is going to fight Mayweather again unless he comes to the Philippines. And we know Floyd Mayweather's not coming to the Philippines.
That's not going to happen.
Floyd Mayweather's not. Floyd Mayweather thinks that everybody needs him. And the funny thing, the one thing I want to say about Bob Arum is Bob Arum says, Mayweather's going around telling everybody that McGregor needs him. But according to Bob Arum and according to Conor McGregor, they both feel that Mayweather needs Conor McGregor. And that's an interesting twist on that. Dax and I were talking yesterday about Conor McGregor and the fact that just his name being mentioned with Floyd, because none of us believe that Floyd would really fight him, because that's not really a challenge for Floyd. I mean, because it would be a boxing match, and Conor McGregor's not a boxer. It's not. It doesn't. To me, it hurts Floyd Mayweather, his legacy. You might want to twist it and say, oh well, he jumped ship before the MMA fighter. So what? But we all saw what Holly Holm did to Ronda Rousey. It would be a similar thing. Except
you also
Floyd.
Know what happened to was it James Toney?
Well, James Toney, and also some other fighters. Got destroyed. Ray Mercer, one of them, that got destroyed too in MMA when they tried to be MMA fighters. The only thing is,
didn't Ray Mercer knock out a guy, a big world win beater, and he just boom hit him with one shot overhand right?
No, that's what happened. Oh, he did hit him with an overhand. Yeah, you're right. But
he did. He won. He beat the champion or something.
No, it wasn't.
Went out there.
It wasn't a champion.
I remember because Ray's a buddy of mine, and we talk. And he showed me this clip on his phone. He said, "Sal, look what I did with his MMA."
Yeah, that's right. No, it was the.
He went out there. He hit him with an overhand right. This guy fell down like a chopped tree.
Yeah, no. You're right. It was James Toney that got destroyed.
Yeah, James Toney got destroyed.
And somebody
That whole
else
debate.
fought for. It was. I know who I'm thinking. I was thinking of Riddick Bowe. Riddick Bowe got destroyed in one round. It was for a title. That was the one for the title. But anyway, let me just get some other scores out of the way. Maybe we'll open up the phone lines. I know Dax was supposed to come on in a little bit, but maybe we'll open the phone lines to get some thoughts on this amateur thing. But over in the Stanley Cup playoffs in the NHL, the Penguins win again, a 2-1 over the Sharks in overtime. They now lead the series 2-0. The next game is scheduled in San Jose, on Saturday. In some football news, the New York Daily News is reporting that Ryan Fitzpatrick, last year's quarterback for the New York Jets, has said that he would take a one-year deal worth $12 million guaranteed to return to the Jets. You know, I've been saying all along, Sal, I say the Jets should tell Ryan Fitzpatrick to go F himself because, the guy is, been in the league 11 years. He's been on 6 different teams. He chokes in the big games. He did it against Buffalo. It prevented the Jets from getting in the playoffs last year. The Jets, by the way, have $3.5 million available on the cap. They would have to restructure everybody to get him. I don't think Ryan Fitzpatrick is worth $12 million. I think he should have taken the $8 million the Jets offered him, even 10. And I say bye-bye Ryan Fitzpatrick, really. We got what we needed out of him 1 year to get us back on track. Major League Baseball was not kind to the New York fans yesterday. Excuse me. The White Sox topped the Mets in 13 innings, 2-1. The Brewers over the Cardinals, 3-1. A's beat the Twins, 5-1. Indians over the Rangers, 5-4. Orioles, 13. Red Sox, 9. The Tigers beat the Angels, 3-0. Nationals keep on winning, 7-2 over the Phillies. Blue Jays blanked the Yanks, 7-0.
Oh, boy.
Braves over the Giants, 5-4. Marlins beat the Pirates, 3-2. Cubs over the Dodgers, 2-1. That could be a prelude to the NL Championship Series, the Cubs and Dodgers. Astros 5, Diamondbacks 4, Royals 6, Rays 3, Reds 7, Rockies 2, and the Padres beat the Mariners 14-6. That's what's going on in the other sports. If you have any thoughts or comments and you want to get on air and talk about the pros allowed in the Olympics, give us a quick call. 845-228-8710. 845-228-8710. I can't get off the subject, Sal.
No, I know. And you know what? It's like I said, it's definitely open to debate and conversation. And, we're going to beat it up and down, left and right, but it's not going to be our decision. But we can definitely express what we feel, the pros and cons of why it would or would not be a good idea.
Yeah, well,
that's what we do here at the Billy C Morning Show.
Yeah, well, we'll have to see what we got going on. But anyway, we got someone on the line right now with us, Sal. What's your name? Where are you calling from? Hello,
Billy.
Yeah.
It's Joel. What's up, buddy?
Hey, Joel. I didn't recognize the number. We got Joel on the line, Sal. What's up, brother? What's
Good
your
morning,
thoughts
Joel.
on this?
How are you?
Amateur
Sorry,
pros.
I don't know. There's something. My phone. I don't know if it's my phone or your phone, but every time lately I've been calling people, I missed the first word. So I'm glad I was able to get through.
So I
By
think
the way,
it's your phone.
I was just gonna say, Sal. Well, then obviously it's his phone. It's not ours. If it's happening to everybody else. But what's your thoughts?
It might be because I called my dad last night and I say hello to him, and he's I don't hear him. He says hello to me, so it might be me. So don't worry. But I do want to say I appreciate the birthday wishes. My birthday's actually this coming Sunday, June 5th. I'll be 32, a year older than you, Billy.
Well, that's right.
Birthday,
Don't expect
Joel.
us to wish you another happy
Thanks,
birthday.
Sal.
We can only do it once a year. We can only wish. So we were a little early today. I followed Sal's lead. But what's your thoughts on pros being allowed in the Olympics?
I think it's silly. I enjoy I don't know as much about it because I've only started to kind of get into that part of the boxing, the past couple of years. But I think that it's kind of like it takes away from finding those diamonds in the rough. I like when we get these young guys, that come up and then they top rank and Golden Boy, beautifully build them up. And I I think it takes away from it. I mean, to me, it's like kind of like cheating. I don't know.
Yeah,
I
but
mean,
what
I know
about-
there'd be other countries with pros, but still.
Yeah, but what about young fighters that are fighting amateur fighters for a couple of years, like in the USA boxing in the States here, and then they go into the Olympics and they have to face a guy like Guillermo Rigondeaux or a guy like Triple G or a guy like Lomachenko who's got 300 amateur fights, all international level. I mean, how can you justify that? We're just trying to even the playing field, or not we. They're just trying to even the playing field. That's where my argument comes into play. You know, if they were all kids, if they were all at the same level, I would be the first to vote no, that pros are not allowed in the Olympics.
I agree.
But that's not the case, Joel. That's not the case. You're fighting guys that out of Cuba and some of these, I don't even know what to call them, but what used to be Russia, all of those countries that don't have professional sports or are slowly getting into them now. You're facing guys that got 300 fights. I mean, how fair is that?
It isn't. I mean, it's not. And, I guess the Olympics are trying to, become like any other TV show. They want to get viewers. I don't know what it is.
No, the original intent, and I keep going back to this, and Sal, I think this is the one part he agrees with me on, is that the Olympics are supposed to be a showcase for countries to field their best athletes and go up against other countries. That's what the competition was all about, back in the Caesar days, when they started it, and really that still is the concept. So when you're not allowed to put your best athletes, countries like the United States and the UK, that have professional sports, we're not allowed to put those guys in, even though they're our best. But we compete against other countries that, in a sense, are putting professional athletes against us. Dax made a great point to me yesterday about the NBA. When they let the NBA players play in the Olympics, same thing with hockey. All of a sudden, the USA team is destroying everybody. But that's because most of the NBA players are from the U.S. In hockey, that's not the case. You're a hockey fan. When they compete in the Olympics and they go back to their country that they're from, the USA isn't blowing anybody away. Yeah, they're not blowing people away, right?
No, they're not. But I mean, if Sal and you could represent the USA in the Olympics, then I think the USA really has a good chance at winning the gold.
Yeah, right. The gold, maybe the gold certificate for Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory,
Easy,
but that's about it. That's about all I'm winning.
I'm going back in the training.
Yeah, Sal can. I'm going to go back into training to get down to Sal's and have a couple of pizzas because that's about what I train for. But so your official vote.
Go ahead.
No, what's your official vote? Should the pros be allowed in the Olympics or what?
No, absolutely not. No.
All right. Well, that's it. You're dead to me now, Joel. Don't expect to ever get through again because we are going to flag your number.
Joel, I respect your decision, Joel.
No, hey, everybody's.
So I just want to say it was Ray Mercer. He knocked out Tim Sylvia. I was trying to say in the chat room.
Yes.
Tim Sylvia at the time was he was in the UFC. He left them, and he was just trying to make some fights. And then Randy Couture was the MMA fighter who totally obliterated James Toney. And I believe Dax was talking in the chat room. I believe it was Riddick Bowe was in a Muay Thai fight somewhere. I forget where, but I think it wasn't an MMA fight. I think it was a Muay Thai fight.
Yeah,
and he got obliterated too.
It was a championship. It was for some title, and he got destroyed. That was the one.
Exactly. The fattest person in the world title.
That was the one. No, I think I might have won
Riddick
that.
Bowe.
But that was the one I was thinking of.
Yes.
But anyway, hey Joel, thanks for the call, man. We appreciate it.
All right, guys. Are you doing a show tomorrow, Billy, or are you off?
Yeah, we're scheduled to. Yeah.
Okay, cool. I'll talk to you tomorrow. Have a great day, guys.
All right, brother.
Joel, have a
take care.
great day. Thank you.
Okay, bye.
That's my man Joel, who's now dead to me. He's went against my opinion.
Easy.
Sal,
Go
you
easy
know, I mean,
down him. He's
come on,
just expressing an opinion. Like I said, that's valid. You got to look at his standpoint.
Listen, I respect and appreciate everyone's opinion as long as they share the same one as mine. If they don't, then screw them.
I sense a dictatorship.
Yeah, Dax was going to call in, and I think he's scheduled to call in now. But so hopefully we'll take his call before we take another one. But it was talked about the other day. Jesse Vargas looks like he's going to be facing Kell Brook in a unification fight sometime either the end of August or first week in September. The two dates that are being tossed around is August 27th or September 3rd. I like this fight. Jesse Vargas, who's out of Las Vegas, 27 and 1 with 10 knockouts, going up against Kell Brook. I think it's a good matchup, and I think Jesse Vargas better be careful in this fight. I think Kell Brook is the real deal, Sal.
Yeah, I think he is too. I mean, I like him. He's a solid fighter. He's got some good skills, and he's a gamer. He wants to fight.
Yeah, no doubt. But hey, joining us right now is Dax Khan. And Dax, what's your thoughts on the pros being allowed in the Olympics? Am I going to be disowning you too, or what?
No, I was actually waiting for 9 o'clock when Dax usually calls in.
Yeah, well, Dax, well, stop. Hey, who
Hey,
do you
Dax.
think? Who does he think he is? Roy Jones
How
Jr.
you doing,
He's-
Sal? The one guy I can depend on to be, reasonable.
Listen. Dax is. Dax must think he's Roy Jones Jr. He's starting to refer to himself in the third person.
That's, it's funny, and I'll mention her in a few minutes. Michelle Rosado is on her way to Philly last night, and she has sent out something on social media saying that she was on the airplane. She asked for coffee, and the stewardess serves her some instant dry pack. So I said something back to her. I says, "Well, did you refer to yourself in the Roy Jones Jr. third party way and say the Raging Babe only drinks a fresh brewed?"
Well, she's.
Well, I would have, any time now. That's my new thing. If I refer to myself in the third person, I put on my Roy Jones Jr. hat.
She's a hottie. That's all I can say. She's a hottie. But so, what's your thoughts on pros in the Olympics, Dax?
Well, we spoke yesterday off the phone, as you had mentioned. I was against it at first, but the more I think about it, it really is not the type of disadvantage that people are making it out to be. Number one, it's not as though they're going to be using smaller gloves, as far as I know. Number two, when you're just as an amateur has a hard time adjusting to the pros, once you're a pro, even after you've been an amateur, you're going to have a hard time adjusting back to that style. In the amateurs, you don't have no feeling out rounds, and so that's where the amateurs are going to have the advantage. Matter of fact, after the AIBA had released their statement supporting it, Twitter was flooded. Lou DiBella, from DiBella Entertainment, he had tweeted, "The AIBA is a disgrace. It's corruption. It's a blind eye to health and safety. Men versus boys." What is that supposed to mean? Pros versus kids. Here we have, when you look at this sport, Bill, and you think about the history of it, Mike Tyson, he was a kid when he won a heavyweight title. Wilfred Benitez, he was 17 years old when he became a world champion.
Right.
You have that kid over in Germany right now, Vincent Feigenbutz, 19 years old, won a world title. These guys are physically matured. And some other pros, Carl Frampton, the unified super bantamweight champion, he had sent out on Twitter. He said that, Lomachenko, Ward, and Golovkin would all fancy their chances against any top amateur. I say it's two different games at this stage. And he also had sent out something stating that, they're making too much of this. In fact, amateurs have the upper hand. Jazza Dickens tweeted to his timelines, top amateurs should beat seasoned pros over 3 rounds, and it's going to make them massive stars when they enter the pros. And any pros going into the amateurs can have their career rejuvenated.
Listen, first of all, Lou DiBella, he's in the news all the time protecting his cash cow, which is Al Heyman. Let's not make any mistake about that. All right, he's one of those so-called promoters that are basically Al Heyman's puppets, okay? He doesn't, his comments about Deontay Wilder, he acts like he's Deontay Wilder's promoter, which he's not, but Al Heyman isn't a licensed promoter. So, Lou DiBella is guilty of, being a greedy son of a bitch, because that's the truth. All right. And the fact remains that once again, he's making a statement that everybody is supposed to follow the United States because our amateur program usually consist of young fighters, boys, if you will, or girls, that are fighting, young kids that are learning the trade of boxing. That is true with the United States generally. But once they get into these international competitions, they're not facing other kids that are 16, 17 years old. They're facing guys, seasoned pros, if you will, seasoned amateur pros. I don't know. Some other countries, they still pay their guys in some way. I don't know, man. I think that if you look at it just from a USA boxing perspective, it's easy to think that it's going to be skewed with young kids going up against, pros. But if you look at the whole picture of the Olympics and all the participants, and especially in the sport of boxing, you'll see that, the United States amateur boxing program is the exception. It's not the rule. A lot of other countries have much better and older fighters in their amateur programs. I'm sorry. I do think that there should be an asterisk next to a pro, like I said earlier, Klitschko or Amir Khan or Manny Pacquiao or Floyd Mayweather. I mean, those guys shouldn't be allowed to compete in the Olympics, and I don't think that a fighter that had already competed in the Olympics at one point should be allowed. I think that this should be for either fighters that are trying to resurrect their career or fighters trying to create more value should be allowed to fight.
That's going to be a hard one to sell, Bill, because you're going to open it up to the pros. You're going to have, like I said, you're going to have a lot of pros that may want to compete, and because they're not allowed, they're going to see a lot of legal battles or opening up a can of worms.
Well, I mean, what a guy like Amir Khan, for example, who recently said he would love to compete for Pakistan. All right.
Yeah.
How's a guy like what's he going to get? He's not going to make money. His value is already a premium for fighters. So now, I mean, the argument is he going to blow through these guys? And what's he in it for? Is he truly in it to win a gold for the country of Pakistan? You're right. Maybe there are some legal battles. I think maybe the AIBA should have, put some, more concrete rules in place. I don't know. I see a lot of pros to letting the pros fight in the Olympics, and I see a couple of cons. That's it.
Not an Amir Khan.
And not Dax Khan.
No, not an Amir Khan. Here's an alternative, Bill. In certain things, when we spoke about the Dream Team when they went in, the difference between the NBA and boxing is, at that point in time, the teams that were facing, they were, used to, college or an Olympic style rules, or so to speak. The people from the NBA, the best players in the NBA come from street ball, or what's known as nowadays as And One, or one of the most famous ones is out in California called the Drew. And these guys are better than most NBA players, and that's what makes them stars in high school, and that's what gets them into college and into the NBA. And so these guys here, on top of having that type of experience playing ball on the street since they were 6, 7, 8 years old in college and then in the pros, they were going against, novices. And, novices that don't know how to play that sort of basketball. These were novices that were strictly taught how to play regulation type basketball. They don't know how to block guys out, slap the ball down, dunking, and all those other type of moves that you would see in the NBA. So that was the disadvantage, in my opinion. Now, if they had that sort of background in other countries and other places, then I would certainly say, then it's not a big deal. Same thing with boxing. Boxing, once you get in there and you guys both have on the same gloves and you are the same time limit, you guys have to go by that point scoring, and not too many knockouts happen in the amateurs. They happen, but not an over-excessive amount. And when you go in there, the point is you have to score those points, and that's the disadvantage for pros who like to have that time to feel stuff out. In the amateurs, the top guys, they're just going to pity-pat and win, and the pros are going to be made to look foolish.
Well, the other thing, too, Dax, is that a lot of pros may not want to roll the dice and say, well, you know what, I'm used to cherry picking my opponents. I'm used to getting hand-fed cupcakes, and in the Olympics, they wouldn't. They would be drawn to an opponent, and they'd have to fight. Then they would have to fight the next day or the day after. There would be no time to prepare, no time to to cherry pick. I mean, that's what I mean. It's not like every single pro is going to race to get into the Olympics.
No, that's true.
And only the ones that have something to gain by fighting in the Olympics. I think all of this negativity is surrounded by greed. The same people that are blaming Wu and the AIBA for trying to be greedy and let pros into the Olympics are the ones that are worried about their own money getting split up. That's the problem. The truth of the matter is that greed has destroyed the sport of boxing more than anything. Greed, even though it's been in existence and been related to the sport of boxing since day one, it's really destroyed it over the last 20-something years, and it's never going to get back. It's never going to get back.
Absolutely, there's no question about that. John Scully, who everybody who follows the sport of boxing knows. We know him well. We actually inducted him into our Hall of Fame. He's a big social media guy, and the other day he had sent out something on social media that said, I won't say fighters back then, meaning previous eras, were better, but they were mentally tougher, and he has something coming out where he was talking on this article that he's trying to write, stating in the last 30 years there have been more guys who have vacated or abandoned world titles than at any other point in time in the history of boxing. And a lot of that is for the same reasons that you speak of, for greed, and because they know they can abandon one title to take a fight with another guy that's going to make them more money, so the title means nothing. Well, I'm just in this for the money and not the glory.
Well, and that goes to show you that the titles really don't have value anymore, that the promoters and the networks just use them as a selling tool, which basically is just taking advantage of the non-educated new boxing fan, because all the diehard boxing fans, they know who the better fighters are with or without a title. And all I could say is 73 fighters out of 17 weight classes all have world titles right now, and that I think says it all. Hey Dax, did you have any other things you wanted to talk about? I wanted to get a couple other callers an opportunity on the the pros being allowed in the Olympics discussion.
Yeah, actually, I promised this one for Sal. When we were talking about, we spoke a lot about the difference of the mentality of guys yesterday and today. We speak about it all the time. And Sal, or even any of our listeners, if they know who said this. Is when I was young, I was knocked down plenty. I wanted to stay down, but I couldn't. I had to collect $2 for my winning or go home hungry. I had to get up. I was one of those hungry fighters. You could have hit me on the chin for $5. And when you haven't eaten in 2 days, you'll understand.
Wow. Yeah, that's pretty good.
You know who said it?
Who said
I know who said it. You know, Sal.
We're asking you, Sal, if you know who said it.
No, I don't. Was it Dempsey? No.
Yes.
Yes, there you go.
Yes,
It was.
It was.
You know what? Because I said a statement like
Sal,
that.
Sal, Rocky, Senecola.
I pulled that out of my hat. I said by a tough Irish guy that had more guliones than he did sense at the time. And so I figured that, huh? See, my assessment, unbelievably genius.
I tell you, I'm impressed with that, Dax.
It's a great thing, and it shows the difference.
I put myself in that position and the time frame, and I just came out with Dempsey.
It's funny. When you go back in time, there was on his I think his 50th or 60th birthday. James Jeffries was talking about the fighters of today, and so you're talking about Joe Louis era. He says, these fighters of today are nothing like the fighters when we fought. So it's like every generation always thinks that theirs was tougher than the current one, and we look at Joe Louis's time as being a great era for heavyweights. But a lot of historians feel that, aside from the Ali late 60s, early 70s era, James Jeffries, Jack Johnson era in the early 1900s was a very good heavyweight era as well. So you never know.
And I just, before I go, I just got to use this time to say two things. Let's talk about the Drew. I don't know if anybody's ever seen that documentary on Showtime, but I was on our Talking Boxing Twitter feed, Bill, the night that was on, and I had sent out a tweet that just happened to say I was watching the show. And I heard back from Showtime in a direct message stating that they wanted to send a poster over to me for my son, who's 12 years old, and it was a giant, huge poster autographed by the two-time NBA All-Star and former Charlotte Hornet, Baron Davis, who was a guy who was a pro, and he had to kind of swallow his pride a little bit and go back into this minor league to get his head back on straight and readjust himself. My son, who has he loves basketball, he loves sports, but he does have a few physical issues. He was kind of inspired by this, so ever since then he's had a really positive attitude where he's told me, Dad, if Baron Davis can, go back and he can keep trying and he can, say to himself, I need to do something differently, I'm going to keep on doing it. So, this was great. And, the fact that Baron Davis and Showtime sent that to him, I appreciate it, so it's done wonders for my son. He's really rejuvenated in his school and in his sports. And my cousin, Isaiah Lucas, we were speaking last week about how sports really turn kids into better people and in their lives when they grow up and how to make them successful. Isaiah is graduating Lawndale High School this week. He played football for them, for the Lawndale Cardinals, for 4 years, and he was just given a scholarship to go play for the University of Illinois, and when he's over there, he's going to get his degree as an engineer. So, these are the great things that sports do for these kids, and, I just wish and hope more parents continue to encourage your kids to get involved, because there really are a lot of guys out there who aren't really all full of ego, who aren't really all about the flash. They really do care, they really do work hard, and they're really great role models for these kids.
No doubt, and that's a great accomplishment for your nephew or cousin or whatever you said.
That's great.
To go to the University of Illinois is what a great opportunity to play football there. That's going to be good, and of course, I'm glad to hear your son is using that as a positive too, and it's good. And a lot of these sports stars say, "Oh, I didn't sign up to be a role model," but guess what? That comes with the job, man. And this is the reasons why. Dax, you just made two great points of why. These guys make that kind of money, and they do owe it to the youth because they are role models. Whether they want to be, whether they think they are or not, they are. So good stuff there. I appreciate it, my man.
And Baron Davis took his own money, and he made that documentary for the kids.
No, that's good. That's good stuff. Dax, I appreciate the updates, and I appreciate your thoughts on the Olympics, and we'll look forward to you tomorrow, too.
Yeah, tomorrow we have two very interesting topics for the listeners. One, speaking of PBC boxing, the debate that goes on there. I want to speak about something I spoke to a few other people about off the air, about the old Tuesday night fights and the Blue Horizon, which was the greatest series in sport, and also about Shane Mosley and something that another guy named Sugar, his name just happened to be Sugar Ray, said about Shane Mosley, his career, and why he's having such a hard time walking away from the sport. And most of all, Jimmy Superfly Snuka, the wrestler from the 1980s, and something that has been buried for years that he has gotten away with, and finally, just as they had him and they were ready to put him on trial, and he might have been forced to finally answer for all these murders and this abuse of these women that he tortured over these years when he was a star, and it was buried underneath the rug. He's declared incompetent, and the man's going to get away with these countless murders.
Jeez, I'm looking forward to that one, Dax. We'll talk about that tomorrow, my man.
All right, everybody, enjoy your day.
All right, Dax.
Take care, Dax. Thank you.
Interesting stuff, huh? So,
yeah.
And we had a couple of callers trying to call in a couple of minutes ago, but the phone line is open. If you got some thoughts on pro boxing allowed in the Olympics, give us a call, 845-228-8710. Wow, Jimmy Superfly. I thought that he was. I didn't even think he was still around. I thought he did get really sick, but I thought he passed away. Crazy stuff, but I don't know, man. This whole pros in the Olympics. I know it's taking over the show today, but what got me going this morning was reading all the negatives from these organizations that are full of shit. You know, the
Well,
ABC.
they see greed and all that.
Well, you know, ABC, the safety of the fighters. I mean, come on. Of course, the safety of the fighters is a concern. And I got news for you. I would think that it would be a little safer in the amateur level than the pros. But anyway, we got someone on the line right now. What's your name? Where you calling from?
It's Coach.
Coach. Oh, he's the anti. He doesn't want
Hey, Coach,
this
how
to
are
be
you?
in. What's up, my
How
man?
you doing, Sal?
All right, buddy. How are you?
So we know you don't like the idea, right?
No. Well, you notice I'm kind of torn in the middle. What it was really bugging me at this point is just the last minute thing about it. This particular group that had put their whole lives on hold to follow the system, people are now like, it's no different than jumping a line, getting in. If you're going to do it, just do it next time so that everybody has to go through the same qualification to get there.
You know, you're right, Coach, and I agree with that. And I think the way they've laid it out is almost impossible for a large number of pros to qualify and get in now. It's only 10 weeks away, right?
Yeah, right. And how the U.S. has it set up, and it's similar to Great Britain, is the top point getters through the year go to a tournament. And after that, you have to win an international Olympic qualifier. So I think there's only one of those left. So the pros, even if they went, and they would have to compete in an amateur tournament just to qualify.
Yeah, I wonder how.
I don't understand how that would happen.
Yeah, I wonder how that would work in the U.S. because, you know, and maybe that's like what you're saying, you know, jumping in line, jumping in front of a line. I think that's a good analogy because, you know, what do they get a pass because they're already a pro? I mean, do they get to compete? And would they have to compete as an amateur for that whole year to obtain those points? See, this is all good points.
Good statements.
And listening to your story, how you got robbed because you know the country denied you the chance to compete. What about the kid who's already qualified, now potentially gets bumped? That's crazy.
Yeah, but don't they have? Are they ever in a position where they have open slots? I'm talking about the USA, the way we do it here.
Yeah, I think Holyfield got one of those.
You know, so I mean, maybe that's the way it could work here in the States.
Yeah, but again, that's amending the rules, and I'm one of those guys where the seventh inning stretch isn't there where everybody meets in the middle of the field and says, "Okay, we're going to move the fences in and change the rules." You know, to me, it's the man on man. The rules are the same. I beat you at the rules of the game, and to always be changing the rules. It kind of gets it, and here's the real question:
Isn't that what Mayweather does?
Exactly, and that's what I don't like. So the thing is, what's the rush? If this is such a great idea, why do you have to push it right now? Wait 2 years, wait 4 years, whatever it takes. There's enough going on out there.
Well, you know, I think that's the ultimate plan. At least that was what I read into the statement from the AIBA. They said that, you know, it's probably because of the time frame for Rio, it's probably not going to be as prominent as it will in Tokyo in 2020, which follows what you're kind of saying, right?
The other problem I see with it is now you have kids that are in the international field. They're fighting internationally, and they're trying to make the Olympic team. Now, if you can come back in as a pro, kids are going to take... Boxing is held back, I think, because it's not like other sports where you don't have that big building fields. You don't have that minor leagues and all that stuff. You're going to have more kids jumping earlier to the pros because they still can get back in.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? So they're not going to properly develop.
Yeah, but, you know, in theory, I can't argue with you. But that's not what everyone does in the Olympics. You're looking at it from a USA boxing perspective, and it's hard to argue with you, Coach. You know, when look, I'm just saying.
I'm looking at it as even a developmental thing. It's a different thing. Cuba's totally different because their baseball teams do it the same way, and and it is competing against the pros. But I'm sure if you go to Lara, any of those guys,
they would gladly leave Cuba for the chance to turn and fight pro and skip the Olympics.
Oh, they swim over here on coconut rafts to get out of Cuba.
Right.
I mean,
so why do we want to go backwards? Why is that the deciding factor to make it wicked?
But they're doing it not to skip the Olympics from an achievement point of view. They're doing it to change the way of life. I mean, so we're not really comparing apples to apples here. But I just it's a tough decision. I look at the overall picture, and when you see the combatants that are in the Olympics, and you're seeing the field that the fighters that we field. They're never as good. Very rarely are they as good, and it's because of our system. It's not the talent level. It's who we're allowed to send.
But that's my point. So here's what's happening now. Those guys that's in what would you do? Say they wait. You're going to have a guy who's say 10-0 as a pro. Now he wants to go to the Olympics. One of those qualifying things is, and this is for everybody, you have to win an international qualifier. That 10-0 pro now actually has to go into an amateur tournament. How's that going to work?
I don't know. You see, that's the gray area. The AIBA said, okay, we're going to now allow pros in the Olympics, and I think they've put that burden on each of the countries that have an amateur program. Now it's up to USA Boxing to come up with a system, because they didn't say anything about how it was going to work. It's not really their jurisdiction, and that's a problem.
That's the
You're right.
corruption part. That's the corruption, because now you're telling the team to just pick a guy. So Mayweather gets to be the welterweight. Oh, who knows? Maybe he's going to do 154 and 147. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The U.S. going to pick rather than qualify. That's what I'm deadly against. So if you're going to do it,
yes. Go ahead.
No, but I was going to say that's the same thing as a commission. Now, some commissions require an extensive amateur background before they'll give you a license to be a pro, and some say, "Give me the $25, you're in." So I mean, again, the burden falls on each of the amateur programs.
No, I agree, but why should we step back, and why shouldn't we be the ones to step forward? Toughen the rules. Make all the states, even as a pro, nobody can just walk in. I mean, they'll never be able to do that, because you'll be denying somebody a job. That's unconstitutional. But at least make the rules the same. Put some type of regulation, and that's what has to happen.
Well, the reason why the states don't do it, and I've brought this up many, many times about trying to have all the commissions, be on the same page with medical requirements, licensing, et cetera, and that's against federal law. Each state has their own. You get to have their own rules, their own laws. So the feds can't come in and say, hey, by the way, for boxing, everybody's got to have this many fights or has to, possess this or that. That goes against.
Major League Baseball does it. The NHL does it.
Well, wait a minute.
NBA does it.
Yeah, but that's a league. Now you become part of that league. Now you have to conform.
So is USA Boxing.
Well, exactly, but that's an amateur league. So, and the burden will be on them. You're right. That's something, personally, I wasn't even thinking of. I think there should be some limitations. I said that earlier. But, once you're in a league, that's why the UFC, that's why the UFC is not going to ever go through some of the problems that boxing is going through right now. And will never correct itself. UFC will never have that burden, because they were smart enough to form a league in its infancy, and it'll just get stronger, just like the NFL and NBA, etc.
Yeah, they had a little advantage of watching boxing history, learn from their mistakes.
Well, that's
yeah. I think the system for our amateurs is pretty good. I would like to see it stay the same. I would hate to see. There are kids who are realistically say, listen, I know I'm just going to exaggerate and make a point there. I know I don't have a punch. I know I can't be a pro, but I can win the Olympics. Now to say my Olympic dream is dead because now I have to worry about fighting Mike Tyson, who, that's okay if Tyson or whoever it is wins it through a tournament qualifying thing. To now just make it a political, an appointee thing is crazy.
Yeah, I don't know how, it's going to work, but I also don't think that I think that the odds are stacked against the USA boxing participants because of our system versus some other countries. I don't, and the record speaks for itself, Coach, because we haven't been doing too well in the Olympics.
No, I agree, but now is the goal to change? Here's how I look at it: is the goal to change the rules so we might win a few things, or are we eventually just going to get tougher and keep? Look at. As amateurs, we beat the pros in hockey. The greatest Olympic win was the United States beating the Russian hockey team, who were virtually pros. They were soldiers. We could do it again. I just don't like, the other thing I don't like is the whole of we're going to make it a little easier just so the U.S. can get a gold medal, we're going to send Floyd Mayweather. That's crazy.
Well,
why not?
Floyd Mayweather, he couldn't win. I don't think he could even win a gold medal in the Olympics because his style is so it's a joke. He wouldn't be able to score points, because he would have to engage, and he wouldn't do that, So, but
but you see that's why when I had mentioned about the corruption part of it, I think AIBA wants the names there. It's almost becoming too much of a business, and that's what made USA Boxing strong. It's not a business. It's not. It's outside of that. And that's what separates that even from the NHL and Major League Baseball, because even though they're leagues, they're still a business.
Let me ask you a question, Coach. As far as amateur boxing, have you seen how other states do it, or are you pretty much focused and proficient with how New York State?
Amateur boxing is kind of standardized through USA Boxing. Where I see the conflict comes in is like the rules that were just recently changed in New York State a few years back. You could have no amateur fights and still get a pro boxing license. Kids would come to me, parents would come to me and say, "Hey, Coach, how do you turn pro?" I said, "I think you need a pen and $75." And they look at me like I'm crazy. But that's how it was, because I think constitutionally you'd be denying somebody a job. Then somebody woke up. There's a safety factor, and you shouldn't be allowing Joe the truck driver to make a couple of extra dollars to be an opponent for somebody. There's, a safety factor, and you kind of watering down the thing. But on the flip side of that, what's also happening now is the different states' requirements is making, like, the medical rules in New York State are so strict that opponents are getting knocked off cards in New York State quickly. That now I'm hearing in the gyms that fighters aren't going to fight in their own state. They're going to go somewhere else and fight so they can get that tomato can opponent.
Right. And you see, that was an argument I made a long time ago, and tried to bring it up to the ABC. Even the current president, Mike Mazzulli, said, "Oh yeah, come in, present it," and everything else. And the truth of the matter is that is where the Fed and state rules came into play. Where they can't dictate they can't dictate that all the states have to obtain, have the same requirements. It's against state, federal law, or whatever. But you're 100% right. And when I promoted in New York State, they wanted only New York State fighters to fight on their cards, or New Jersey fighters, because they were basically not making it available to other fighters. Other fighters like to come to New York and get all the medicals so that they can fight anywhere else, So it is, and I think that the opportunity, if they standardize the medical requirements in professional boxing, I think the opportunities for fighters to fight on cards would definitely be greater than it is now, So no, that's a good point. But listen, I think in a nutshell, you're right about the pros being allowed in the in the Olympics, that they can't flip this switch and have it happen as quickly as a lot of people are making it seem. I just think that there are some pros out there that would benefit in the opportunity to perform in the Olympics. And likewise, I think that there are established pros that shouldn't be. I think that there has to be some type of a committee of some sorts that would approve these. But then again, like you said, that's where the corruption comes in. So there's no right or wrong answer, I guess.
And the other thing I think you have to be afraid of, we'll just say, for instance, Klitschko enters, right? Now he has to get that international qualifier. So he's got to go to an amateur tournament. He knocks out his first two opponents, and by some crazy, strange thing, he loses. And then into the heavyweight champ of the world just lost in an amateur tournament. Is that just another step towards the WWE?
That's risk versus reward, brother. You know, and
But that's not just for the individual. It's gonna be sport wise.
well then.
People now will start to question, how did this guy become the heavyweight champion?
Exactly, and then let me tell you something. If there's a champion out there that wants to compete in the Olympics, he's going to have to deal with the sanctioning body. Are they going to want to risk one of their champions losing to an amateur? It's all, listen. You're right about it happening too quick, and I don't think that you're going to see many pros in the Olympics in Rio this year. But I will think by the time Tokyo comes around in 2020 that you will. You know.
I think we're kind of on the same page, actually. But if you really look at it, the amateur boxing setup that we're talking about is exactly the way the United States pro boxing is set up. Think about it. The standards are different from country to country, the same way it is in the pros here, from state to state.
Yep.
So no matter what, you're getting that WWE effect because you're never comparing apples to apples. You know, this guy's a pro. This guy's a pro, but he never had even an amateur fight. This guy's a pro, and he's won every New York tournament. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
He has. So maybe being a little old school, I like to stand some things better fix, better left. You know, if it's not broken, don't fix it.
I agree. Hey, we're going to we got a trivia question coming up. I know you're itching to win a few more, so stick around, and we'll got the trivia question coming up in a couple of minutes. So.
All right, cool.
All right, Coach. Appreciate the call, my man.
Take care, Coach. Good points.
Have a good day.
Take care,
You
brother.
too.
You know, Coach makes it hard to argue with him, Sal.
Well, I'll tell you, he touched some areas that were my concern as well. It's true.
You know, he brought up some haunting situations with pro boxing here in the United States and how the differences between the commissions. And I think just before he hung up, he made the strongest case of all, saying that the amateur boxing scene globally is similar to the problems that we have here in the United States from professional boxing within the states and all the different rules and regulations to get to those tournaments and stuff that I'm not as well versed in the amateur programs as, of course, Coach is. He's in he's right on the pulse of it. So little things like that, I don't know. I mean, my opinion is still the same. I believe that certain pros should be allowed. I don't think an established pro like a Klitschko or an Amir Khan or even a Floyd Mayweather should be allowed in. But I do believe a fighter with 10 or 12 fights or less that's a pro should be allowed in,
True.
I guess we'll have to
like I
wait.
said, you can open up that can of worms as far as discrimination.
Well, that's a whole nother story. I mean, in this world
I know.
of being...
It's tough. And like I said, I always felt the amateur program in the United States, as I was a part of and as I understood it, you win a state Golden Glove championship or AAU state championship. Then you go to a national Golden Glove championship or national AAU state national championship. And then you progress from there. Then you get lucky enough to get an invitation to represent the United States boxing team over in some international bouts. And you win a gold medal there, you do this. And then you're on the spotlight and you're on the radar to be a contender for the Olympic berth. And that's how you get the invitation to go compete in Olympic trials. I mean, It was a pretty good progressive way to earn an Olympic berth.
Well, the
You
Olympic...
couldn't just be a slouch off the street. You had to have definitely skills.
Well, they haven't even seen how the change with the Olympics with no headgear is going to be this year. So
I wouldn't know about that. I always thought no headgear.
yeah, I know. To you, nothing's changed. But hey, Sal, as we get close to wrapping it up, I had just told Coach that we're going to come back with a trivia question. So let's read it right now.
Wait. What trivia question? I thought I answered the trivia question when I came out with Dempsey. That was a luck. lucky draw?
No. That was Dax giving you something here. Now it's time for the.
Wake up. It's time for the It's Too Early for a Trivia Question.
All right, today's It's Too Early
Good
for a
segue.
Trivia Question is being brought to us by Sal's Neighborhood Pizzeria and Italian Restaurant located
Why
in St.
not?
Simons Island. Check it
Absolutely.
out, www.salsneighborhoodpizzeria.com. Here's the question. So the first person that answers this question correctly by emailing me, Billy@TalkinBoxing, that's TalkinBoxing.com, will win a choice of a great prize. As a matter of fact, I'll give you a copy of the Title Bout Championship computer game, which is the game that Alex is always talking about when we do the Blast from the Past. It's a really good prize. It's not a game that's graphically designed. There is some graphics, but it's more of a simulation game where you could put Floyd Mayweather against Sugar Ray Robinson and watch Floyd get his ass kicked, stuff like that. And you can set up who their trainer is, what kind of condition, what weight class, all that stuff. It's really good. For all the information, click the Title Bout banner, which is located on BillyCBoxing.com on the left-hand side. Here's the question. Let's see. What do Ted Kid Lewis, Dave Shade, and Young Stribling all have in common? What do Ted Kid Lewis, Dave Shade, and Young Stribling all have in common? If you're the first one to answer this question correctly by emailing me, Billy@TalkinBoxing, that's TalkinBoxing.com, you'll win the Title Bout Championship computer game. One more time. What do Ted Kid Lewis, Dave Shade, and Young Stribling all have in common? Good luck to everybody on that one. You have any quick guesses, Sal, or what?
They're from Georgia.
Yeah, no, that's the every time
Jack
I think,
Dempsey.
Every time, yeah, okay. You quit while you're ahead. You were 1-0. You're already 1-3 now. But I love
See how fast you can blow a good record.
Yeah, the fun. That's right. For all you pros thinking of going to the Olympics. But I always think every time I think of your state of Georgia, I think of the thing you told me when the news hit that. that Russia was invading Georgia or whatever. Everybody went out and bought a gun.
The day they announced years ago that Russia has invaded Georgia was the largest day that gun sales went through the roof by all the Georgians, if you will, went to the gun shops to buy guns.
There you go. That's
as good citizens should have done.
Yes. If the Ruskies were, well, I shouldn't have said that. If the Russians were marching down Main Street in Atlanta or Main Street in New Brunswick or even St. Simons, yeah. But that wasn't the Georgia they were talking about.
That wasn't the
but
exact Georgia they were talking about.
But hey, listen. Usually after our trivia question, we like to follow it with this.
This day in boxing history.
This is one of my favorite things, Sal. This day in boxing history is being brought to us by my book, of course. Tom Molyneux, From Bondage to Baddest Man on the Planet, is available right now where all good books are sold, and everyone should have a few copies. You can get a copy right now by going to barnesandnoble.com or amazon.com. On this day, Sal, June 2nd, in 1933, Eugene Creaky knocks out Johnny Kilbane in the 6th round to win the world featherweight title. Took place in New York City. On this day in 1990, Marcos Villasana knocks out Paul Hodgkinson in the 8th round to win the vacant WBC World Featherweight title, and took place in England. On this day in 1913, Sal Rocky Senecola was born. Wait a minute. Oh,
hey,
no,
I like that. Whoa,
I'm
hey,
sorry.
whoa.
I'm sorry. No. Bill Ladbury knocks out Sid Smith in the 11th round to win the World Flyweight title. Took place in London. On this day in 1973, Carlos Monzon, one of the greatest middleweights of all time, wins a 15-round decision over Emil Griffith to retain his WBC and WBA world middleweight titles that took place in Monaco. On this day in 1973, we've been talking about this guy a lot lately. He's one of the greatest fighters of all time, and arguably one of the greatest lightweights of all time. Roberto Duran knocks out Hector Thompson in the 8th round to retain his WBA world lightweight title and that took place in Panama. On this day in 1924, Mickey Walker wins a 10-round decision over Lou Tendler to retain his world welterweight title. It took place in Philly. And finally, on this day, I finally got it right. On this day, June 2nd, 1891, Sal Rocky Seneca. Oh, no, I'm sorry. It wasn't his birthday.
Easy.
On this day, June 2nd, in 1891, Charles Kid McCoy wins a 4-round decision over Peter Jenkins in his pro debut in St. Paul, Minnesota. Kid McCoy would go on to fight for 25 years, becoming a world champion and a boxing Hall of Famer. His career record, Sal, 92 wins, 65 coming by knockout, only 8 losses, and 11 draws. He was inducted into the International Hall of Fame in 1991. That's what happened on this day, June 2nd, in the sport of boxing. So a lot of interesting stuff on this day, man.
Absolutely. I'll tell you what. I want you to keep in mind next April the 13th, because that's when I want you to say, on this day in 2013 in boxing history, April 13th, Sal Rocky Senecola made his comeback after 25 years, 66 days of retirement to go back against an active contender nearly 20 years younger than he was and outboxed a active fighter.
Hey, cool. Yeah, well, remind me about that.
I'll remind you next year.
Yeah, you remind me every hour. But hey, Coach just added to this day in sports history, which is pretty interesting as well. On this day in 1935, the great one, Babe Ruth, retired from baseball, and that was kind of a bittersweet thing for Babe Ruth. Obviously, everybody knows he retired from baseball. When he started battling cancer. He was well past his prime, but still, Babe Ruth, one of the greatest baseball players of all time. My message to the New York Jets, don't give Fitzpatrick $12 million. He ain't worth it. Sal Rocky Senecola is a better quarterback than him. But
hey,
anyway,
I could throw a football.
And
even with a torn rotator cuff.
No, we said football, not throwing pizzas. Come on, Sal.
I could throw pizza.
Yeah, I know you could throw a pizza. Hey, Sal, any final thoughts before we pack it in today?
I'll tell you what, I enjoyed today's show, and I'll tell you, we'll probably follow up and see what we're going to discuss further about this Olympic idea. But let's hope we get some good fights coming about, and let's see what the contracts will read in the future.
Well, I'll tell you right now, today we did a show without any commercials, but don't forget, tomorrow is Fan Driven Friday. We'll open up our show. We will go commercial free again, and we will open up the show tomorrow with a couple of little points from Sal and myself, and then the phone lines will be open. So depending upon how many of you give us a call tomorrow, we'll all dictate how long we roll. So Sal, I appreciate you hanging around for the entire show. How does it feel, by the way?
Enjoyed it very much. I'm so excited, and I think about 5 minutes I'm going to have breakfast delivered. I can't believe it.
Yeah, breakfast delivered. Jeez.
Yeah.
I wish, man, if I had
somebody coming by with the breakfast. I just got a text.
Well, well,
you know her.
Yeah, I know. It's. All I'm going to say is, Sal, you're my idol, man. That's all I'm going to say, But, Sal, I'll look forward to chatting with you tomorrow, my man.
Take care, Billy. Thank you so much. I enjoyed today's show very much.
All right, brother. Take care.
Take care, brother. Bye-bye.
That's Sal Rocky Senecola having his girl deliver breakfast to him. Oh, jeez. But, hey, listen, man, I appreciate you guys hanging around. Hot topic today that we beat to death. I still believe that certain pros should be allowed to participate in the Olympics. A lot of you made some great points that called in, and also in the chat room. And if you have any more thoughts on that, feel free to drop me an email, billy@talkinboxing. That's TALKINBOXING.com. Don't forget to tune in tomorrow morning. Same bat time, same bat channel. Until then, ciao, baby.